Honkai genre has got some real daddies in its cast of characters, and today I'd like to introduce to you my boyfriend, if I like 7-foot guys, which is the elegant Ashveil. Welcome to my complete Ashveil guide, where we'll be going through his kit, best teams, ways you can play him, builds, everything in between. Use the timestamps for your own convenience, and also everything is here are from the Creator Experience server. With all that said, let's jump right in. To start us off with a summary, Ashveil is a lightning element hunt character who plays the role of a sub DPS / buffer, mainly for the follow-up attack archetype. So think of it providing great damage and support for characters like Feixiao. Not only that, he has enough damage output to straight up be a main damage dealer if you want him to be, and he can also be fit in a non-follow-up attack team as just a general buffer with good damage output on his own. One of his best value as a supportive character is with his massive 40% team-wide defense reduction and team-wide 40% crit damage buff, which you'll even get an extra 80% crit damage team-wide if it's for follow-up attacks. And with that, his best team will involve Feixiao, Tribbie, and Heng PT most likely, which are all equipped with very frequent follow-up attacks. That will perfectly benefit Ashveil's own kit too. Surprisingly though, he can even be fit in general teams like an archer team or even a castress team because of his negligibly low SP usage and good follow-up attacks to help someone like Archer out. Now he does need a team that attacks a bunch, so having a Tribbie on the side is what's gonna make him effective. With a summary out the way, let's dive deeper into his kit now. We'll start with his skill, which is his main supportive engine. The skill marks one enemy target as the bait and deals lightning damage. This is similar to Topaz and Numby's Proof of Death, but the difference here is though, when the bait exists on the field, all enemies' defense are reduced by a big 40%. If the enemy already has the bait effect when this skill is used, you'll deal additional lightning damage and also recover one skill point. And with that effect, it's where he pretty much has negligible skill point usage, since he just gets one back by spending one through his skill if you attack someone that already has the bait effect on. You do have to be careful not to have literally 0 skill point when it's Ashveil's turn though, since you gotta spend one to get one back. On top of that, when bait does not exist on the field, Ashveil immediately inflicts bait on the enemy with the lowest HP. So you pretty much have infinite uptime, and to start the fight off, you already have the bait effect. You can just use the skill on the bait character, or switch the bait effect to someone else by using the skill too. From all this, you can tell Ashveil is like a more versatile and improved version of Topaz and Numby, since its effects apply to all enemies, so your whole team deals more damage regardless of who the bait is. However though, it is still better to attack the enemy with the bait effect because of Ashveil's talent. To check out his talent, Ashveil will start with 2 follow-up attack charges, 3 if you used his technique, and it is shown right below his character icon. Every time the bait is attacked by another ally, Ashveil regenerates a fixed amount of 8 energy. You cannot gain more energy with energy regen stats since it is a fixed 8 energy. And this also means Ashveil can be built with speed or without speed, since as long as you can get energy with this effect with your whole team attacking the bait, you'll gain your ult automatically without even taking too many of a turn with Ashveil. After that, Ashveil will consume 1 charge and launch a follow-up attack against the bait, which does decent damage. Ashveil also gains 2 stacks of gluttony, which is pretty much just extra damage on his ultimate, which we'll cover later. And yep, speaking of his ultimate, this one's interesting. Ashveil is able to mark 1 designated enemy as the bait with his ult. This just means more control over who has the bait effect by spending a skill point to switch the bait effect. Ashveil will then deal decent damage on the enemy and immediately launch an enhanced follow-up attack once. He also gains 3 follow-up attack charges right after. The enhanced follow-up attack is similar to the talent's follow-up, except it doesn't consume charges and it consumes 4 stacks of gluttony to deal additional instance of lightning damage. He's going to continually consume stacks of gluttony until you have less than 4, and if he's able to land a killing blow with this additional instance, you will continue to do additional damage to the next bait. That is until you have less than 4 stacks of gluttony. A quick reminder here, you gain gluttony via using Ashveil's talent's follow-up attack, which are triggered by a bait being attacked by a different ally. Ashveil also has a few bonus abilities here to help his kit out too. The first one is simple. Ashveil gains half a stack of gluttony when he uses skill or ultimate, and during his follow-up attacks, if an enemy suffers a killing blow, Ashveil gains 1 stack of gluttony. This actually helps him out with clearing mobs, and it is a good quality of life for hunt characters under AoE situations. And we can see that the design of Ashveil does have some ideas of being better for a hunt character against multiple enemies compared to just one boss, but it still doesn't change his role mainly. Ashveil's second bonus ability increases his own follow-up attack damage by 80%, and for every 1 stack of gluttony he has, it increases follow-up attack damage additionally by 10%. Very direct damage boost for mainly himself, making his role as the sub DPS more prominent. Ashveil's last bonus ability says if he's on the field, crit damage dealt by allies increases by 40%, and for follow-up attacks by allies, the crit damage boost will increase by an additional 80%. This instead improves his supportive capabilities, making him a good balanced mix of damage and support, especially for follow-up attack related teams. So with his whole kit done, it looks obvious that Ashveil's gameplay will revolve around simply having your whole team attack the bait, which triggers his follow-up attack and also gain Ashveil energy. Ashveil gains Gluttony for using his follow-up, which powers up his ult, and after he uses his ult, he gains 3 follow-up charges again, and now you gotta spend them all again by attacking the bait to gain Gluttony again. You rinse and repeat. This can open up to really dynamic interactions in battle, where your whole team follow-up attacks and further trigger each other's follow-up, so it's gonna be a really satisfying scene. Now that you get what Ashveil's all about, let's take a look at his best builds. In terms of the light cone, his best is obviously his own signature, which provides him a really important crit rate, attack increase, and damage taken increase for enemies. However though, there are really good alternatives as well. A few great ones are Cruising in the Stellar Sea, Topaz's Worrisome Blissful, which you can exchange from in-game stores, and even the 4-star Swordplay, though you do have to do your best to only hit the same target for this light cone to be good. In terms of her relic sets, the best options are the 4-piece Ash Blazing Grand Duke set for the outer relic, and the 2-piece City of Converging Stars for the inner relic. Some considerable alternatives are straight up a 4-piece Wind set to set up unique speed clears, and a 2-piece Duran set for more damage on Ashveil, which is actually a good option for main DPS Ashveils. In terms of main stats, you're looking for crit rate, crit damage body, speed or attack percent boots, lightning damage orb, and attack percent robe. In terms of his boots, having speed or attack can both work fine, since he gains a fixed 8 energy every time the bait is attacked by the team. So even if he's slower, he can still gain his up consistently to have his follow-up attack charges again. Having speed is still great for his own skill usage, so you can take more turns with him, generate more Aria stacks for like your Feixiao for example. The general idea here would be to go for whichever you have the better substats of. I've tested both and the difference under normal gameplay is not that crazy. But of course, the stat will change if you want to try some unique speed tuning effects for a speedier clear, or if you're just trying to have a hyper carry Ashveil with no speed, pure damage. Both way works, it depends on your team. Moving up next, let's take a look at his teams now. There are a lot of teams that you can actually use Ashveil in, as long as you feed a healthy amount of attacks to trigger Ashveil's follow-up and help him gain energy too. The team that makes the most sense would be Ashveil, Feixiao, Heng PT, and Tribbie. Obviously, since Ashveil provides very good benefits for follow-up attackers, using Feixiao is a no-brainer, given she's still the strongest follow-up attack main DPS so far, especially if you have her E2. If you have her own signature even, you can reach nearly 100% defense reduction combined with Ashveil's 40%, which is very valuable the more of it that you have. More importantly though, this team has a multitude of follow-up attack sources from all fronts. Tribbie has crazy follow-ups, Heng PT has very constant attacks, especially with the Soul Dragon, plus all of them have low skill point usage. And if anything, Heng generates a bunch of them. All of that allows for this follow-up attack team to have very low stress for skill point, very constant follow-up that triggers each other's follow-up, and the more instance of damage you put out, you gain more Aura stacks for Feixiao, you gain energy for Ashveil, so everyone profits fully from Ashveil and Tribbie's buffs and debuffs. So it's an awesome follow-up attack team that utilizes everyone's kit well. The team you see on screen has no Eidolons by the way, so it will get crazier with something like an E1 Tribbie that most people have. I probably have all of these teams showcased in full on the channel, so do check them out, or at least hey, drop a sub so you know when they're posted, huh? I would appreciate that. In terms of alternative teams, you must also be wondering about Robin, since we're talking about follow-up attacks here, which I can say it's actually not as explosive as having a Tribbie on the squad, because Robin doesn't have follow-up attacks at all. That means you get less Aura stacks for Feixiao, less energy for Ashveil, so it's not exactly as good as it could be. However, what is unique about Robin is you can do very specific speed clear setups with no sustains, and that will be something Tribbie can't quite do. To think of an example, that team would have Ashveil, Moza, RMC, and Robin. This setup can actually be a really good zero cycle setup, and yeah, that also just means Robin will be in like a high ceiling position when you partner her with Ashveil. But while just using her normally instead of Tribbie can still work, you might have to time her ult better and you'll still clear in a similar timeline, so it's a really feasible option. To also just point out about Aventurine, he is, well, kind of just Heng PT. However though, Aventurine could be better in situations where the enemy attacks a lot of times with a lot of bounce hits in order to trigger his follow-ups. Overall though, it's not too much of a difference maker. You can just stick with Heng. To move away from the follow-up attack setup though, we actually have this team with Archer, Ashveil, Sparkle, and Heng PT. ADT. Now this team is interesting. While Archer doesn't deal a lot of follow-up attacks, Ashveil can still provide benefits like 40% defense reduction, 40% crit damage increase, and more importantly, Ashveil can trigger Archer's follow-up after he ults. This will actually help Archer generate skill point mid using his skill, and it's pretty helpful for Archer. This team is actually the fastest team that I tried, but well, it's also low-key just Archer being really strong. In any case though, if you're a fan of the Husbandos, Archer Ashveil is a good combo that you want to look into. Speaking of Husbandos, the final team I have for you will just straight up be a main DPS Ashveil, where you'll have a Sunday, Tribbie, and Heng PT alongside him. This team is surprisingly very strong too, specifically with Sunday's buff and energy regen. All of that will help Ashveil take more turns, do more damage, and get more ultimates in order to do all of the above again and again. Ashveil's own damage is strong enough too, which makes this team valid. And it is important though to have allies that attacks a lot by his side, like Tribbie and Heng, to fully give Ashveil the help he needs. If you do, you're looking at a similar clear time as a Feixiao team, even with Ashveil being the main DPS. I'd also give an honorary mention to using Ashveil with Casterus, Tribbie, and Cyrene. I mean, it works since the whole team attacks a bunch and Tribbie is just there with the follow-ups, but realistically, I wouldn't really pull Ashveil just to put him in that team. But well, it could work though. With the teams out the way, let's take a look at his Eidolons now. His most valuable one will be the E2, which I do only recommend getting if you're a really big fan of follow-up attack teams or if you're a big fan of Ashveil. The E2 increases Gluttony stack limit, and you get refunded Gluttony after using his ult's enhanced follow-ups. This will massively increase Ashveil's own damage output, so it is the Eidolon to aim for. The next big Eidolon will be E6, which just makes him a straight up damage dealer. He'll be outputting insane damage to just carry your whole team. The other Eidolons like E1 is solid, but I'd go for E2 if I'm even considering dupes. And yep, I would prioritize his E2 first, then his own Lightcone, for the fact that there are a lot of strong alternatives for the Lightcone choice. And with that said, let's quickly conclude. Ashveil is a very versatile sub DPS slash support that holds enough prowess to even be a full-fledged DPS if you want him to. He can aid follow-up attack teams or even other archetypes of teams like Archer and even Casterus, as long as the rest of your allies is capable of attacking constantly. And honestly, most modern teams can do that. However, to be completely frank, given the possible coming banners that got drip marketed, it may not be the highest value option to pull for Ashveil. Of course though, unless you truly love the character and the meta is something you're not bound by. But hey, don't let anyone tell you how to play. You decide who you want to get and you decide how you want to have fun. And that will be all for my Ashveil guide. I hope I helped you out and take care.